supposed to turn in his deck list. Runs over the dealers, gets some brainstorms, shoves them in, hands in the deck list, and then he realizes as he counts his deck later, 62 cards.
Tisk, 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 but seems to be working out just fine for him, oddly enough. As we do see Caleb there on the right, Andrew on the left here. Have Andrew's deck list in front of me. Again, a Stifle Knot deck. If you guys don't know that combo, we'll be bringing both pieces on screen for you guys at some point here. Phyrexian Dreadnought, a 1-mana 12/12. It's got to have some sort of drawback.
Oh, what would that be?
And you have to sacrifice, I believe it's that amount of power to be able to leave that in play.
That's
and
correct.
Stifle mitigates that, so it is an interesting little 2-card combo. It is still a creature, of course, so Swords to Plowshares, Path to Exile, what have you, still able to take care of it, but if the opponent does not have that, it is not going to take long to finish that game off. As we do see both players here underway, Adrian, we're going to see a Thought Scour here from Andrew. Andrew's going to respond to that by sacrificing that Scalding Turn to dodge a Stifle.
Yeah. Now, Caleb Durward running 4 Stifles of his own. So both of these players with access to Stifle. Caleb also with access to Wasteland ×4, and Andrew only has 3 Wastelands. But in this kind of matchup, where both players have Stifle and Wasteland, sometimes you can see some crazy stuff happen with activations as players hope to dodge each other's spells.
Yeah, it's kind of interesting. You know, we're going to see a little bit of Wasteland jockeying back and forth, Fetchland jockeying back and forth, and, you know, players going, is this okay? You know, and then the other player deciding if they do have Stifle, yeah, I'll let that one slide, or no, I'm going to try to, you know, a little 1-mana Stone Rain there for you. So it'll be interesting as we see that both players jockey for position.
A Brainstorm from Andrew Shugart. I can't tell if that looks like that's an end of turn Brainstorm.
Yes.
Andrew might be deciding it's just not enough time to try to get the most out of his Brainstorm, and he just wants to use his mana. That's the decision perhaps he went through there.
That's kind of interesting, too, because we do bring up Stifle, and one of the things that you can do with Brainstorm, of course, is you do Brainstorm, you draw your 3 cards, you put the 2 cards back, and then you sacrifice a fetch land to kind of clear the top of your deck and shuffle away the garbage. But with Stifle being prevalent in both players' deck, that interaction, while most of the times a guarantee, isn't necessarily one here. So that's kind of a neat thing where you can kind of actually, on accident, Brainstorm lock yourself. Lock out your draw step for 2 turns.
Caleb Durward here, a Rug Delver list that in many ways is even more reminiscent of Canadian Threshold than a lot of the lists that people are playing. That return to Stifle is kind of a thing that we've been seeing more and more of as Stifle has an effect on Terminus amongst many other cards. But also Caleb has a fair amount of extra burn that other players haven't been running. 4 Lightning Bolt is fairly typical, but he's also got the Chain Lightnings that people have moved away from a little bit. Pretty exciting here. 1 Sylvan Library, I'm always a fan of that.
Yeah, you know, you do see some Rug Delver lists with just one of those. I know that Todd Anderson was playing one in the last Invitational that he was able to win, I believe, one in his main deck and one in his sideboard. Very powerful card if you can get it online, but it's not a card that you really do want 4 copies of in your deck, as the second one is nowhere near as good as the first.
Nimble Mongoose in for 1. Still small. The other part of it that's reminiscent of the Canadian Threshold, the Thought Scours, which are not necessarily in a lot of the lists anymore.
And that's a card that I know some people are a huge fan of. The camps are always really split on that card. Either they love it or they hate it. And one thing that Thought Scour does that is interesting is, you know, if someone's trying to hide some cards with a Brainstorm, you're able to Thought Scour those cards away. You know, it does have other interactions, of course, with Enlightened Tutor and other such things. But it is a really, really nice card. It only does draw 1 card, though. So.
Yeah. In the sideboard games, both of these players have Submerges, so we're going to probably see the potential for the Submerge fights happening as well. Andrew Shugart here. Scalding Tarn in the graveyard. That Stifle we talked about looks like it did some fun work on him. And a new land, Misty Rainforest. Is the Goose loose yet? Is that 6?
The Goose is not quite loose yet, so we do have 6 in the graveyard. You see a Spell Snare to go along with 2 Brainstorms and another Nimble Mongoose in Caleb's hand. So the Goose can get loose shortly, but it's not quite time. And Caleb says, yes, it is.
You see that look?
Yeah.
Caleb gave this little sly look up for half a second.
As we do see a brainstorm, here from Caleb. He's going to do the old do-si-do, get his hand all set up here. I don't believe he has a fetch land to clear things away, but we will figure out what we do want to set up on top as we see a Delver of Secrets in his left hand.
I know the secret. The Mercadian Masks Brainstorm there. Nimble Mongoose now loose, 3/3.
And we actually do see a Scalding Tarn, so he will be able to shuffle everything away. But he does have to pick his spots here again because of Stifle being prevalent.
He goes for it. Andrew Shugart says, okay, that's fine, that's fine. Now remember, for Andrew, his Stifles are not just the same kind of aggressive or responsive Stifles that Caleb's are. Andrew's Stifles, he also needs them if he wants to make his Phyrexian Dreadnoughts anything other than fancy Brainstorm bait.
Yeah, it's more of a combo piece in Andrew's deck, whereas Caleb's, it is meant to be a reactive permission piece. So that is kind of interesting, where we may not see many stifling of lands from Andrew, but we will see it quite a bit from Caleb if he has the opportunity.
If you're just joining us, this is the final round of the Star City Games Open Series Legacy event. One of these players will be in our top 8.
As we do see a Brainstorm here from Andrew again, we're going to see a Wasteland on that Misty Rainforest in response again, so that Andrew cannot shuffle away his great cards with Brainstorm. A very nice play here by Caleb, one that he can afford to do because he does have extra lands, but also because he has some nice pressure being built here with those 2 Nibblemongis.
Andrew successfully fetches. He pauses, a nice pregnant pause there, waiting to see if Caleb will do anything about it. Caleb declines, and so we see a volcanic island.
Now Andrew is going to have the opportunity to see 3 fresh cards here on Caleb's end step. See if he can find some gas, get something going here. He's, you know, really getting beaten down as we see a Daze, a Stifle, and another Stifle here. So he does have his combo pieces as he's going to put back a Volcanic Island and a Wasteland. And we do see the Phyrexian Dreadnought in his hand as well. We'll bring that up on the screen for you guys. The 1-mana 12/12. It's old school.
Totally.
It's coming to town.
Yeah, I remember playing this card at Pro Tour. This is a good one. Oh, boy.
Were you cheating it into play as well?
No, I was letting it die. It was a Dreadnought with the Pandemonium. So
oh, hello.
Come into play, take 12. Reanimate it, take 12. You're dead.
That
along with Necropotence. That's probably one of my more powerful moments in Magic way back in the day.
So just a couple of fair cards you're playing there. As we do see a Daze, and now we see a Stifle here on the Dreadnought.
Ruben Bressler gives me a look. That deck also played Final Fortune.
Yeah. Of course it did. Why wouldn't it?
Necropotence for 17. Final Fortune, untap, kill you.
As we do see a Force of Will here on a Tarmogoyf here from Andrew. So Caleb attempted a Brainstorm, it got dazed, and now he can't attack. But I think I know something that can,
right?
Adrian.
That is a big, big guy. Now, here's the thing about that creature. One of the reasons that Natural Order is a deck is that you get to put a huge, huge creature into play, and the game just ends in 2 turns. Dreadnought can pull that same trick.
As we see it rumble across for 12, and Andrew sitting in a comfortable 12 himself. Nibblemongis can deal 6 to put him to 6, but is there anything that Caleb can do about this next attack for 12 trampling over? We're going to see a Chain Lightning.
Is it going to be Bolt for the finish?
No, I got a reader here.
Oh, well, if Andrew sends it back, the game will not be so good for him.
Does he have the other burn spell here? No. And...
Oh,
yeah, he scooped it up. All right. Try to scare him a little bit there.
Oh, boy. Look at Caleb smile. Andrew smiling, too. That was a fun little moment. The judge, or sorry, the table spotter smiling. Yeah. Everybody, I think, has a good time when Caleb's having fun at the table.
So I do know, Adrian, that you have Caleb's deck list in front of you. He is down a game, and he's got some problems to solve. Does he have anything to do to beat a 1-mana 12/12?
Well, let's see, Cedric. I think he could put 3 big Tarmogoyfs in front of it.
Oh, making it easy. Okay.
Now, the most important card that I think he has to deal with it's Submerge.
Okay.
Now, if you're not familiar with Submerge, this is a 5-mana instant, but normally you don't cast it as a 5-mana spell. It puts a creature on top of a library. What you usually do is cast it for free, though. Now, casting it for free, you need to have an island in play. They need to have a forest in play. And that is sufficient to make Submerge free. Both players have access to this card, and it's usually pretty much a staple in the sideboards of these Rug Delver lists.
Now, taking a look at Andrew's sideboard over here, we have 4 copies of Red Elemental Blast, being able to counter, of course, Caleb's blue spells. Also, those 4 copies of Submerge that you bring up. But a card that's a little bit interesting here are 3 copies of Electrickery.
Ouch.
And that's interesting, of course, because not only is that going to kill the front side of a Delver of Secrets, but with the Overload, it can actually take care of a Nimble Mongoose before it has to reach Threshold. A card that is untargetable does not dodge an Overloaded Electrickery.
An Electrickery for just 1 mana? Well, that targets. An Electrickery with Overload doesn't target anymore. It's really interesting to hear that Electrickery has made Andrew's sideboard. I know that at Grand Prix Chicago, a lot of players playing, I believe, Affinity had managed to figure some way to fit Electrickery into their sideboards. And it's kind of cool to hear that Electrickery has moved from beyond Modern into Legacy. That's a really cool find.
It's a bit surprising to see that out there, but you know, it does have some interesting applications across the format. Something as simple as being able to take care of a Nimble Mongoose before it reaches Threshold. But another one that's kind of cool is that it does give these type of blue-red decks an out to a large Empty the Warrens.
Yeah. I mean, the thing that's interesting is that when you're playing in a format like Legacy, there are so many possible decks. You can't just have a card that answers like one single deck. So what it's basically kind of saying is that Andrew is letting us know that there are numerous one toughness creatures out there that he feels the need to get, and not only are they 1 toughness, but they come in numbers.
As we do see both players shuffling up here. Andrew's deck does have a little bit of spice here. You know, we do find the Phyrexian Dreadnoughts, which is his primary win condition. There are also 4 copies of Delver of Secrets, also 4 copies of Grim Lavamancer here. And then, you know, interesting cards that he does have in his main deck. He does have 1 copy of Misdirection. He does have 1 copy of Sensei's Divining Top, and he has 1 copy of Vision Charm. Vision Charm? I'm old school. I don't even know what that does.
I actually had to look it up. The thing about Vision Charm, this was a must-have sideboard card in 1997 block constructed.
You say must-have?
Yes.
As in it has to be done?
As in you had to have it in your sideboard if you wanted to win a PTQ.
Okay.
But the thing is, I don't know what Andrew's doing with it. I hear the modes. If we bring up Vision Charm on the screen, it's one of the old school charms. Blue for an instant. The first one, an artifact phases out. The second one, the top 4 cards of a library are put into a player's graveyard. The third one, all the lands of 1 type are now basic lands of your choice. I mean, is he using this as some sort of strange abeyance/silence card? Is he using it to phase out his Phyrexian Dreadnought?
So let's say that he puts a Phyrexian Dreadnought into play, and then with the effect on the stack, he phases it out. Now, I haven't seen phasing for a little while, but if it comes back, will he have to pay that cost? I don't think so.
I don't think so. Maybe it's a 5th Stifle?
Yeah, an interesting one. It does a little bit more, too. Top 4 cards, target player's library into the graveyard, and all lands become basic lands of a choice. You know, you're not going to see those 2 modes very often. You're going to see the first one quite a bit more, but it is a little bit outside the box, and if that's not a reason to love Legacy,
right?
I don't know what is.
Right? So let me look at the list you've got there for Andrew Shugart to see if there's anything else that's on there that's exciting. Wow. Vision Charm, definitely. Misdirection is kind of an interesting one. And unfortunately for Caleb, there's not even a little touch of forests in Andrew's deck. No green source anywhere. So if Caleb does have Submerges, they're going to have to be cast for the full amount.
Yeah, 5 mana for that effect. As powerful as that effect is, the reason that it's so good, of course, is that it is free. It doesn't hurt that it's blue to be able to remove from Force of Will. But in these matchups, it is meant to be a free spell used as a makeshift Time Walk. And for those with Thought Scour in their deck, you can actually use it as a removal spell in combination with Thought Scour. So we'll see if Caleb did bring those in, assuming that Andrew does have some tropical islands in his deck.
Delver comes down. You'll notice that Caleb Durward has Force of Will in hand. Now, a lot of times, Force of Will gets sideboarded out in Rug Delver because you don't want to end up having yourself get ground out by your own Force of Wills. But in a deck like this Stifle Knot deck, there's this combo element that you just do not want to have happen. So, you know what? Even though there's also a grind element of a Delver versus Delver style thing going on, you better keep in your Force of Will so that you don't just have a 12-12 staring you in the face and just telling you hello.
Yeah, I think that one is definitely worth fighting over. As we saw in the first game, all it took was that Phyrexian Dreadnought to resolve, stifle the trigger, and then that game ended very, very quickly as we see a Tarmogoyf now, and you see Andrew reveal Phyrexian Dreadnought. And that's not quite going to do it there for the Delver of Secrets, giving Caleb a little bit of information there.
Okay, his hand. I see a Stifle, a Spell Snare, a Dreadnought, maybe a Lightning Bolt. I think that's a Lightning Bolt, yeah. And 2 other cards I can't make out. A Brainstorm and a land.
As we see Caleb here smiling with his hearty beard, drawing a card for the turn. You do see a Red Elemental Blast in Caleb's hand to go along with a Force of Will and another group of cards, a Tropical Island as well. Delver not flipping just yet. Not your time to turn into Insectile Aberration, but Caleb can still continue on the offensive here if he'd like to. Does have to get a little bit creative to make that Tarmogoyf larger, though.
Red Elemental Blast, Force of Will, and is that land? Does he have any blue spells in there? Nimble Mongoose, and that's it. No blue spell for the Force of Will. Wow.
And we're going to see Red Elemental Blast just attempt to take care of that Delver of Secrets right away, and you're going to see a Brainstorm in response here from Andrew.
Caleb says sure. Brainstorm, draw 3, put 2 back. Because there are no lands or shuffle effects in Andrew's play here, this is going to mean that he's going to get one of these cards back on his next draw step. This is going to be something that the Delver of Secrets will perhaps discover.
Perhaps, as we do see Andrew moving another one forward here, looking, he's reaching for Lightning Bolt. So if that does stick around, which it does not, it will not be revealing anything. And we do see
dead to the Red Elemental Blast.
We do see Caleb reaching for his guys and turning him sideways. Tarmogoyf going to come across for a number here. We'll have the Tarmogoyf die on the screen for you guys momentarily so you viewers at home can know exactly how large it is instead of playing that guessing game. But Andrew's life total will be going down as we see a Nimble Mongoose now join the fray.
1/1 Goose, 3/4 Tarmogoyf, 1/1 Delver of Secrets. And I think we might see Andrew move to attempt a 12/12.
And we do see a Phyrexian Dreadnought. Here we go.
Comes into play, trigger happens. Stifle it. Do I get to cheat my 12/12 into play? Yes.
Looks like it. All right. So Andrew has made the combo again here. And this is going to be another situation where Caleb isn't going to really be able to attack, as we see Delver of Secrets for Caleb reveal a Life from the Loam, switching into Insectile Aberration. Caleb is going to be able to go to the skies here, but what kind of benefit is Life from the Loam going to be able to provide?
Life from the Loam is a good card.
And it's actually what Caleb has done here is he had a fetch land in play. He revealed the top card to Delver of Secrets, which again was that Life from the Loam, and then Scalding Tarn went away. He sacrificed that because he said, actually, I don't need Life from the Loam right now. So you see him shuffling it away. It'll get him a fresh draw step, but he's going to need something here to deal with this 12/12, where we're going to see a repeat performance of what we saw in the previous game.
I know the secret.
As we do see Caleb draw along with his force. Well, it looks to be a Lightning Bolt, as you see Andrew moving around that Phyrexian Dreadnought.
Just taunting him. Come here, Tarmogoyf.
Yeah.
In the air for 3.
So you see Andrew sliding cards around in his hand. Again, we do know there's a Red Elemental Blast there that could tag that Insectile Aberration. It's just a decision on if he wants to make that attempt or not. He decides to take the 3 damage. Now we're going to see a Chain Lightning here from Caleb go upstairs toward Andrew. So it looks like that's going to knock him down to 9. And Caleb does just pass back. So now Caleb has done something really nice here in that he's kind of threatening a lot of things here, Adrian, and putting Andrew in the situation of, are you going to take the risk of attacking me with that 12/12, or are you going to hang back on defense afraid of this counterattack?
I mean, the life total is low enough right now that Andrew is in a position where the race is losable. On the other hand, the more he waits, the more the insect will nibble away.
So we see Tarmogoyf grow a little bit here. And we are going to see that 12-12 Lumberlawn across, knocking Caleb down to 6 to 9 in favor of Andrew. And he does just pass
it back. Wow, that Mishra's Factory hiding underneath the island.
Ready to block at a moment's notice.
It reminds me of the art of elephant ambush, really.
Yeah, just ready, as we do see a brainstorm here from Caleb. And again, we do know that Andrew has a Red Elemental Blast in his hand. Is this the one that he's going to use that spell on, as he does sacrifice a Scalding Tarn now, bringing himself down to 8. Searches for that volcanic island. We also know he has Lightning Bolt in his hand, so we'll see which avenue he's going to take. If maybe he's going to use that Lightning Bolt to take care of the Delver of Secrets, or perhaps that Red Elemental Blast to take care of the Brainstorm.
For those of you who are just joining us, I'm Adrian Sullivan here with the one and only Cedric Phillips. And we are underway a match between Caleb Durward with Rug Delver, Andrew Shugart with the Stifle Knot blue-red deck here. And one of these players will be going on to our top 8 today. Okay, waiting to see what the decision will be. Brainstorm is on the stack currently.
And you saw Andrew sacrifice that Scalding Tarn. And he looks like, he sacrificed it. Now he's really weighing his options on if he wants to let that resolve or not. And he has let it resolve. I guess, he's doing that there to try to fade a Stifle. Doesn't want to get his land stifled. But Caleb did have cards in hand, so wasn't really playing around that so much. But I'm a little surprised that he did choose to let that resolve, because it looks like, a Lightning Bolt type effect is going to be problematic based off of the contents that we know are in his hand. And you see a Tropical Island now come into play. Now you do see a Tarmogoyf. What you're going to see there is a Spell Snare take care of that. As you see Caleb reaching for the die, you see a Daze here.
Spend 1. That would mean tapping precious mana. Look at that card count. I can't quite see how many are in the graveyard. Is the goose loose? It's getting close. And the Daze works. Tarmogoyf is in play.
You see, if he would have paid the 1 on that Daze, he doesn't have any blockers, and he would end up taking a lethal attack from Caleb. Daze made it the 7th card, so nice brainstorming there by Caleb, setting up everything perfectly. Andrew still sitting okay, but that Phyrexian Dreadnought is not going to be the lethal attacker he wanted to be because of Tarmogoyf, Nimble Mongoose, and the other Tarmogoyf making up a lot of toughness.
That is 13 toughness currently.
Now we're going to see exactly how Caleb wants to attack this turn. Is it a better idea to put Andrew, down to 5 just through the skies via Insectile Aberration, or to make the attempt to get in there with the Nimble Mongoose or that unsummoning sick Tarmogoyf and cause a block with the Mishra's Factory? That is the question.
But what is the answer?
Only Caleb knows. Only Caleb knows. As we see him racking his brain here. It's definitely a tough spot to be in. It's not a good feeling ever facing down that 1-mana 12/12 Trampler. It'd be a lot easier if it didn't have Trample, but that's what makes Dreadnought such a great card. And the other thing that Caleb has to play around too, Adrian, is the fact that there are Lightning Bolts looming. If you see someone playing a blue-red deck, you can almost assume that Lightning Bolt is somewhere throughout their 75.
It's just so powerful, it's hard not to play it. And boom, there's a Red Elemental Blast. Takes out the insect.
And now you do see Andrew untapping here, drawing his card for the turn. Let's see what he can find. It is a Misty Rainforest.
Caleb attacking with this Dreadnought. sorry, Andrew attacking Caleb with this Dreadnought will not kill Caleb based on the defenders that Caleb can put forth. But in order to do that, Caleb is going to have to throw away at least 2 of these creatures. So we could see some block that would leave Caleb with a counterattack. So Andrew still has a question mark to go with. Does he want to make the attack happen?
Yeah, there's definitely a risk associated with making this attack, and he just needs to consider the ramifications of serving in here. One of the interesting things too is that it does, by attacking with this, put a lot of pressure on Caleb to block in a certain way.
Absolutely.
And I really like that about this attack, is because Caleb can play a certain way and just say, I hope you don't have that second lightning bolt and block one way. Or if he does block in such a way that he doesn't want to die that second lightning bolt, he's going to lose at least 2 guys.
Yeah. Now, if Andrew Shugart were to sit back, that Phyrexian Dreadnought, if Caleb attacked in, would eat, one of those Tarmogoyf, and then the Mishra's Factory could block something else. And it's just one of those interesting situations where attacking is a better way to defend yourself.
Yeah. And now we do see 2 creatures jump in front, a Thresholded Nimble Mongoose and a 4/5 Tarmogoyf. And you do see that second lightning bolt go upstairs. And a handshake from Caleb Durward, meaning Andrew Shugart moving along to the top 8 with a blue-red Delver Stifle Knot deck list, a deck we have not seen for a long time.
Yeah, while we were watching this match, I kept on trying to pull up the last time we saw it. I thought this had a this archetype had a top 8 at a Grand Prix not so long ago, like maybe 2009, but I couldn't find it during the exploration of the internet that I was doing there. If you out there know if there was any kind of Stifle Knot finish in a top 8 of a Grand Prix, do us a favor, tweet it to @SCGLive. I'd be curious to see what top 8 that was, or if it's just my own fantasy, my dream of Stifle Knot in a top 8.
It's been a really long time since we have seen this sort of deck. Now, obviously, it has gotten some upgrades, of course, in Delver's Secrets, a newly printed card. Some other cards around here as well, but what you do find here are 4 copies of Standstill to go to that kind of Land Still Stifle Knot deck list that you did see around 2007, 2008, kind of making maybe, perhaps, a little bit of a comeback here, because those games were quite decisive.
Now, I have been on a crusade